the recent meeting between a couple of top American officials and their Chinese counterparts, I think will go down in history as the official end of the United States being the world's sole superpower. The United States has been the world's sole superpower since the Soviet Union collapsed, so 1992. We've had that position for 28 years, which from the historical space of time is not very long. And many people in the 90s thought it would last much longer. But this meeting symbolizes the new Chinese confidence in which they dealt with the Americans almost contemptuously, laughingly, like adults deal with children. And the Biden diplomats were not prepared for it. They were flummoxed by it. They thought they started things out in the driver's seat, but it turned out not to be so. Let's look at this a little more closely, because at this meeting, you had U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, you had National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, and they sort of began by lecturing the Chinese. We will discuss our deep concerns with actions by China, including in Hong Kong, Taiwan, blah, blah, blah. This is Blinken, the Secretary of State. And I think he thought the Chinese, as usual, would put their heads down and kind of sheepishly, this has been the way it's gone for the past quarter century. But the Chinese launched a surprising counterattack. And they launched a counterattack which was devastating because it was based upon premises that the Biden team itself is committed to. Basically what the Chinese said, and I'm now quoting one of them, he goes, everything Washington talks about is centered on the U.S. and on white supremacy. In other words, the Chinese went on to say, hey, listen, stop lecturing us. You, Biden people, admit that your society is founded on racism. It became rich and powerful through exploitation. It has built its wealth on the backs of slaves and minorities. It is even now structurally racist. And it's not that we, the Chinese, have to prove this. We don't have to prove it. Why? Because you admit it. This is the premise of your administration. This is the basis of what you teach in the government. This is the ideology you're pushing on the military and on the cops and in the schools. It's your doctrine. We're just quoting it to you. Now, what makes the Chinese, and of course the Americans were like, we don't know what to say. Yes, they were up against the wall, frankly, because there is nothing to say. Now, the sad truth is that this ideology that the left is pushing is a lie. And the Chinese know it's a lie. They know the United States is not racist. But they go, as long as these fools in America keep saying that they're making a self-indictment, why don't we take advantage of it? And why don't we take an advantage of it to neutralize American criticism of human rights abroad? Now, all of this is occurring against a sort of important backdrop. It's not just about diplomacy, and it's not just about who said what to whom and who came out on top in a verbal contest. No. I think the bigger picture here is that the Chinese are in a serious project of building their economic, political, and military strength around the world. They are cultivating their allies. They are gaining access to minerals. If you want to see something that will kind of unnerve you, go online and look up the construction of the China-Pakistan highway. They're building a highway. And in this country, we talk about infrastructure. We're trying to basically repair the Lincoln Tunnel. The Chinese have largely built a massive highway that stretches for hundreds of miles all the way from China to Pakistan. Now, let's remember here, something kind of big is going on. This isn't just about, well, let's just build a highway. I mean, we have to build it to somewhere, so why not Pakistan? No. It's symbolic of the fact that the Chinese want to ally with the Pakistanis and check the power of India. So the Indians are a little nervous about this. So an American ally, India, is made nervous about this because they can move massive amounts of military material, massive amounts of troops and supplies on this highway. But more broadly, I think it signals the alliance of the two biggest forms of totalitarianism in the world. China, whose communist totalitarianism stretches over 1 billion people, and radical Islam. So the Chinese realize if the Americans and the Europeans are on the other side, let's make friends with the radical Muslims And then we will now have a rival alliance that will pose a serious and significant threat. The Chinese also realize they've been really helped by COVID. COVID has, in a sense, accelerated China's rise to power. The Chinese economy has already roared back. Everybody else is limping and staggering along and trying to sort of get back on their feet. The Chinese are more than back on their feet already, and they started it. They released the virus, intentionally or unintentionally. I think unintentionally, but nevertheless, they knew about it. And they kept information about it from getting out. The Chinese are not scared of Biden. In fact, they're a little annoyed. It's almost like they're, they've got their fly swatter out. They're a little annoyed at being lectured by this clown on human rights. Why are they annoyed? Because they paid for Biden. Let's think about it. The Chinese wanted Biden. They paid for Biden. They got Biden. And now they want to be paid back. They expect it. They demand it. So when Biden, in response to domestic pressures, I'm going to be tough on China, sends his two clowns to the summit, the Chinese are like, ha 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 ha, let's embarrass these fools and let's send them back to the fool in the White House, because we're running the show now, guys. We're not junior partners of anything. If anything, you have now become our junior partner. So just listening to the confidence of the Chinese, I'm thinking, I get the feeling that China thinks that it is in the same position that America was in the immediate aftermath of World War II. Think about it. With the world in ruins, America stepped out almost like the young kid who now takes over, the young ruler who takes over the world and goes, you know what? The world is now our playground. It's ours and it's ours to stay. That was the feeling in America, and everybody else in the world shared it, looking to America for leadership. But now the Chinese think the American era is coming to an end. Not that America will go away overnight, but America will no longer be this unipolar, world-sold superpower. We're the world's leaders. And the Chinese are like, think again. The world has now changed. We're back to having a bipolar, perhaps a multipolar world. And at the end of this game, the Chinese believe it's not America, but China that will be calling the shots.